start the second part of the morning session. Good morning, everybody. The first speaker of the morning session will be Michael Laterveer. Many of you will know him. He has been a biologist, marine biologist for a long time at Rotterdam Zoo, and since 1.5 years he is now the curator of the aquarium at Rotterdam Zoo. Michael is going to talk about fish training, which is a very powerful tool for aquarium management, and I think it's very important that we all train our animals and not only our aquarists. So I also heard that Michael will do a small dancing demonstration, but I'm not sure if he will do that. Okay, Michael.
Okay, thank you, Max, for the introduction. Good morning, everybody. I think everybody's awake now with some coffee. Hi, Mom, I'm here. And Pablo told me to stay with these microphones, because otherwise it's not recorded. That's very difficult for me. Training, fish training. A lot of people do it, and we didn't talk enough about it. That's why I thought it would be nice to send out a questionnaire. And I'd like to talk about the survey and what kind of results there were from this survey. And fish can be trained. The aim of the survey was to review the use of conditioning and training of fish in public aquaria. Why I used these terms, conditioning and training, what I noticed in my surrounding is that there was some confusion. And some people call it conditioning and other people call it training. I thought, well, let's use both terms and look what happens if people react to that. How far people are into these terms and what they understand of this. And I got a nice discussion from somebody from the States, which actually said something about this. What do you mean? What is exactly what you want to know from me? Just a very brief explanation. Classic conditioning normally is that there's an unconditioned stimulus, and the Pavlov effect of the dog is most known, so I'm going to use that. If the dog smells food, it's going to have saliva, and he cannot do else. This is just a response this dog has. It's kind of a reflex. So the unconditioned stimulus is just a reflex of the animal. And by pairing this unconditioned stimulus with a conditioned stimulus, for instance with this dog, it's just sounding a bell, and then the dog connects the sound of the bell with the smell of food, and it starts salivating again. So you have the same response, and you can use another stimulus. That's normally used with conditioning. Training focuses on rewarding favorable behavior, and it uses animal learning, and so it involves the memory of the animals. And you can use conditioning there as well, but you can also just have behavior and reward the animal and have nothing to do with actual conditioning. I can talk over this a whole lecture, so I'm just going to skip it. And I'll talk about the survey, the fish training questionnaire. There were 106 surveys sent to Europe, 100 surveys approximately to the States, through the marine fish tag there. We got a return of 33 surveys, which is 16%, which I thought was kind of low. 25 surveys came back from the UE and 8 from the US. 16 of the institutes that returned their questionnaires trained with fish, so 48% of the response really train, and 17 do not. And there were 9 institutes from Europe that trained with fish and 8 from the US. In total, it's about 98 training sessions and 53 species. The number of individuals involved is 445, and 143 of these are teleosts, and 302 species are individuals, are sharks and rays. And funny is that the teleosts, almost all the teleosts are noted down as juveniles, while from these elasmobranch species, only 9 were recorded down as juveniles. So I thought it was quite nice to see that. So 53 fish species. 37 of these species are elasmobranch, 16 of these species are teleosts, so 30% teleosts. Of the 37 elasmobranch species, 32 of them are saltwater species and 5 are freshwater. For the teleosts, 11 are saltwater species and 31 plus are freshwater species. One of the questions was, what is the purpose of the training? And I hope this is not too confusing. So it's a pie diagram, and the blue gives, you could give different reasons why you do this training. And so you can give multiple answers. And the answers could be management only, which is blue section, management and public entertainment, which is the gray area, 25%, management study and public entertainment, what a lot of people also do, it's 25%, etc., etc. If you look at the total pie, about 93% of all the institutes mention management as the main reason why they do this training. And how are the fish trained? There are very many types of training. And it's very difficult to look at these data. There are only 16 of them, but the answers in these to the questions of how do you train are very different. So some are very short. So we made I made a calculation of do they use targets, and then there's different tools they can use with them. So all these sessions, you see the bars. That's the number of institutes doing this target training, and the animals are touching them. There are 9 of them. Target training, also touching them, but with a sound signal involved, etc. If you look at the total amount of trainings, which is in total 89 trainings, 37% of them, all what you see here, involve target training. The other trainings involved are with feeding stations. And here again you can see that there are different, they're all feeding stations, but some use with a target, other use a sound signal, etc. So, but they're all feeding stations, and you can see that feeding stations are the most common training way in the questionnaires I got back. It's 48 do it of the 89, which is more than 50%. Then there's one training that only uses a sound signal. It's with divers underwater. They use a sound signal, and they have a flag underwater. In the beginning of the training, the animal approaches, and at the end, again, the sound signal is sound. There's some other trainings. One funny one involves a grouper, which comes up and they throw kind of grit and sand on it, and it likes probably the feeling on its back, and then it goes back again. So it's very funny trainings now and then. And some have no answers. I'm going to scare you off with this. It's just to, I'm not going through it, you don't have to do it, but it's just to give, this is the separation we made. A target touch, fish touches a fixed target, and then there's a sound involved. You can touch the target and follow the target, so that's the separation we made. And maybe there are some others, that's why I wanted to show it to you and maybe discuss it later this week. Some examples. This is an example from Dolfinarium Harderwijk with a lump sucker. And you see that there's a movable target used, and there's some food given to the fish. You can also have a very big target, in this case a human. If she goes underwater, I guess the sharks combine it with the time and feeding, and they will go up to the animal keeper. This is in the States, Pittsburgh Zoo, and this is a typical target training as everybody thinks it should be, or what they have in their mind. The fish goes up, follows the target, and gets its food. They get, in this case, they got one step further, and they trained these zebra sharks to really swim up to the keeper. The keeper can do all kinds of things with it. It's like the same like a dolphin training. It's said that the veterinarian can come up and he can take blood from the tail, and the fish will stay there And so he can take blood here from the tail, he can lose the fish, and the zebra shark comes back directly without any harm while it's been blood monitored. And they go even further, that they can just pick up the zebra sharks, put it back in the water, and it comes right back again to the feeding station. It doesn't show stress at all. Of course, this took a few months, but now the fish are totally accustomed to it. And then there's the training of smooth hound sharks and the story hound shark. And let's see if I get this running. This is with the compliments of Monique Timmer from Harderwijk. I think she showed it a few years ago during the EUAC. Here you see that the unconditioned response is triggered here, just by putting food in the water and the sharks comes there. Here you see that the unconditioned trigger is combined with the stimulus, a sound signal by clapping on the side. Then there's the movable target underwater, and you see that Monique is having a flute in her mouth, and she's whistling as well. So she uses more stimuli than the conditioned stimuli are multiple here. The sound on the board, the sound with the flute in her mouth, and the target itself. They're all stimuli. You could also see that the shark is biting towards the target, which indicates that the unconditioned stimulus, here you can see it, is food. Funny thing is, you see a ray here, and I'm not really talking to Monique about what they're doing, but at the end you also see that the rays also, here again, they really react to the situation. And it can also be a break of the day or just being interested in the food. I think it should be very easy to also include the rays in this case, if you want to. Probably this is the end of the training, so a sound signal at the end, and in the beginning and at the end. Another question in the questionnaire was, do you wish to start training with other fish? And of course this question was only for the institutes that already trained with fish, because you train with other fish. You see that most really want to do it, and a few not, and a few did not answer. And the reasons why not to train. And this is split up in two pies. And this pie is from the institutes that did not train fish at all. So the 17 institutes that did not train. And you can see here again that there's different reasons why not to train. And you can give different answers there. And in the end you see that the time consuming, that is 82% indicated it's too time consuming to do the training. And so this is institutes that do not train with fish, and the answers, why do you not train with fish more than you already do? The answer of the institutes, they didn't really answer it because they trained. But it would be interesting if they really want to train more, and why they do not train it. It's probably time consuming as well. Well, a little discussion, and I hope maybe some questions. Low response, maybe it's the complicated survey. It's also complicated work we do. 53 species, 89 training sessions, 445 species or individuals involved, a variety in training types. I think there's an underestimation of the possibilities of the training. If you look at the questionnaire, management comes up a lot, but there are real good opportunities to show your public, so for educational reasons, that sharks are not stupid animals that just eat. They can learn, and they behave, and they can react to people. And you can see that your visitors are really reacting to that, and they go home with a totally different story.
2 minutes, Michael.
Thank you, Max. Maybe there's also an overestimation of the time investment. I had a discussion a long time ago in Rotterdam Zoo that it took so much time to do it. Well, if you throw in the food, put down a target and let the animals hit it, in both cases, the animal keepers are busy for a quarter of an hour to do this feeding session. And you can do it with or without training. I think you should do with it. I already talked about other reasons for training, and don't forget research, and quite a few did do the training because of research. Well, I hope to discuss with you and suggestions and input. And maybe there are questions now.
Thank you very much, Michael. Are there any questions? Well, there's a question there. Anton, just 1 second for the microphone.
For what kind of training, for what kind of research you would do the training of the sharks? Except for blood samples.
Yeah, it's a good question, of course. What kind of research can you involve in training of animals? I know another institute, I think London Zoological Society, did some training with sharks to look at their response to electromagnetic fields. It's exactly the same why we started in Rotterdam to do the training. If you have your sharks coming to a specific spot, and you can influence that spot by, for instance, by placing a magnet or an electromagnetic field, and the shark responses to that, you can look at the sensory systems of the sharks in a semi-natural environment. And to look if the sharks really were able to do that, we already did the discrimination training in Rotterdam by visual targets. So we put 2 targets approximately 4 meters apart from each other, one with a round circle, the other with a square circle, and the sharks only got fed when they touched the target with the round circle. So the target was, both targets were round, and above the targets were signs. And so we did the training, and you could see that after a few months, well, first we did the training with totally white squares and totally white discriminants, so a white round thing and a white triangle thing, and the sharks didn't react, and then we put bars on it, and at that point the sharks started to learn the difference between the triangle and the round discriminant, and then you saw that the sharks were not touching the triangle target anymore because they only got fed with the round target, and so they learned to discriminate between these 2 targets and only touched at the end the target where they got their food with the round visual sign. And there are many other things you can do, but this is an example.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Claudia?
Hi, Michael, this is Claudia. I don't know if you can see me from there. You spoke about training and conditioning before, but maybe something about operant conditioning is actually the base of what you're using here. And I think from what concerns time consumption and management and husbandry, training might be a high use to the management of the species, but also a word should be said in the fact that training is not, it is a professional job. And so if you have keepers and aquarists starting to train animals, they should probably include in the program some sort of course from a professional trainer that explains operant conditioning at the base, and also the positive use of enrichment coming from training. And so I just think it should be mentioned in conclusions that maybe a course for keepers and aquarists to use it properly.
Thank you for clarifying this. This is exactly what I hope to accomplish, that we talk about this and have some discussions. I think the next 2 speakers will be very nice to watch. It will be Hugo Batista and Nathalie Pike, and they will both talk also about training. So I think that would be very interesting, and we have lots of nice discussion, I think, during lunch.
Okay, thank you, Michael. I think for the time we will need to go on to the next speaker. Thank you.
I had a small question about, in the same field that Claudia, about the aim of training. Do you have rules, and do you think that the training don't conduct us in a direction where you can do a show with animals? What is forbidden? What are the rules for the training?
Yes, it's too long to go into that. As Claudia already explained, you really need a course to talk through with people, because there are different ways, and some people train in a very good way but don't really know why they're doing it that way. There's also discussions in the institute. At our institute, we do not do shows. We tell people something about the animals if we are there for feeding. In this case, the training was allowed because we needed it for management. We needed to separate the sharks from the other species in the tank, otherwise we will have biting incidents and loss of animals. That's the main reason. And I just combine that with scientific research and try to combine it. But so we'll have some discussions on that. And Dolphinarium has a dolphin show, and for them it's much easier to say, okay, we train because of a show, and others will say only train because of. So it's a very nice discussion, but thank you for saying it.
Okay, thank you very much.